there. And then you can go through and even drill into and learn a little bit more about these components. So it is a fully integrated experience. You don't have to leave the builder. You click Get It Now, the installation flow is all there. So you don't have to worry about a broken experience.
That's great. That's a huge convenience and time saver, especially when you want to explore what the options are. Maybe all of those standard components aren't enough.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we want to make it as easy and accessible as possible, right? So let's do a few things. Let's make some real customizations here. So what I'll do is I'll add some components here from the left-hand side. So let me grab this tabs component. This is a standard component that we provide. And the nice thing about it is this tabs component actually helps create more real estate on a page without having to make it super long, so you can put things within tabs. So you see, I drag and drop it. That component renders right away. That's exactly what your end users would see. And I have a tip here. We can just simply start dragging and dropping stuff inside of it.
Ooh,
yeah, so
that was cool.
Yeah, so I can take that related list component and just drag and drop, and you see it. Now it's within there, within that related tab, and it renders right away. So that's exactly what your end users are going to see. Like I said, zero guesswork, right? So we'll go through, and what I want to do is let's make that the second tab. And maybe I want to create this first one. I want this to be our chatter tab. So I want to move chatter. Let's put it on the right side. Let's keep details on the left side so you get that experience that you couldn't build in Classic with drag and drop. So I simply go in, and you can see as I start clicking through these components, this right side starts to update. So this is the property editor. They're all going to be, it's going to be unique for each component. It's going to have the right properties, the ones that make sense for them. And you can see now I've added chatter. The chatter tab has appeared. Let's make sure a default one is chatter. So when your end users go in, that's the first thing that loads. And I'll simply drag and drop. We have a nice standard chatter component. I'll drag and drop it into that tab, and then there you go. There's a chatter feed. It's the same chatter feed that you saw in the runtime or at the end user's in the end user's view of the page. So there's just live information there. So like I said, very cool, all WYSIWYG, right?
That's so fun. I mean, it's kind of like putting together a puzzle in whatever way makes sense for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can create your own whatever you want. Just before you finish your demo, I think this is a good thing to touch on. There was a question that came in and said, can you have different home pages for specific apps?
That's something that we're working on for an upcoming release. So
Okay.
It's by profile today, so you've got a lot of flexibility there. But you can, in the future, that's something that we're trying to we'll have on the roadmap. One of the things that you could build also is we have another page type called the app page type. And that can be app specific, and we've seen customers actually use that for their homepage.
Yeah.
The nice part about that page type is you can create it for your Lightning experience. You can even reuse it for mobile too, so it automatically works great on mobile.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No,
Back
no
to the
problem.
demo.
Great question. So I've got chatter here. So I actually had a default chatter one on this side. So I'm just going to simply click into it. I'm going to delete it, and you see that chatter tab goes away right away. And now I want to make details the first one because I want that to load up first. And you can see, so really simple. See, if I didn't talk so much, that would have actually taken way less time. But now you see, I've got a great preview of exactly what the end user is going to see. I see details here. I see chatter on this side, zero code involved. Didn't have to go out and bring a developer in or beg, borrow, and steal their time. So pretty simple. The new feature that I want to actually show also is this dynamic feature. So where does that come into play? What's the type of use case that could be pretty cool and pretty powerful for it? So another one of the components that we have this flow component, and this is a really cool one. It's a standard component. And for our friends out there that have used visual workflow in the past, this is a way to be able to surface those flows, surface those pages contained with those flows within the app builder, and put them actually on record pages or home pages or even app pages if you'd like.
This is my favorite component, by the way.
Yes, yes, it is a super powerful component.
It makes Flow so much more accessible for admins.
Yes, and it's a great, easy way. It's the quickest way to get into Lightning too and get it on these pages. And the flow component actually does some really cool stuff too. So once again, the properties you see here have updated. And what I want to show here, let's say that I get a business requirement to say that, you know what, I want a deal support flow to show up for my end users, for my account executives. As they're going through and the process of the opportunities is maturing as it's going through the stages, I want to be able to show deal support requests at a certain point in time. And there's a few criteria that have to be met here. There's a dollar amount associated with the deal support because we don't want low value ones to take up time from solution engineers or from product managers. So we want only high value ones. So what I'm going to go through is show you exactly how we would configure that. So I've got this deal support request that I've already pre-created in the org. One of the nice things about this flow component is it's contextual, so I can even pass a record ID into it too, which is very cool. And I have this option down here. So this is the pilot feature. So for those of you that have used App Builder, have gone through and customized pages, you won't see this component visibility section today. So this is where the pilot kicks in. So if you have it enabled in your org, you would see this set component visibility option, and this is where you can dynamically control when this component shows. So I've simply hit the Add Filter button, and what that does here, and I'll zoom in a little bit, is you see field is the first option. So this is a list, like I mentioned before, this is all the standard fields and the custom fields that you've created in your org that you want to build some criteria off of. So in this case, let's base it off of stage as the first one. So I can scroll down, I find stage, and let's say that the stage has to equal needs analysis, which is where I'm at with this particular record. So I simply hit done. So now I've got stage equal needs analysis. So what that's telling me is that when the stage is equal to this, right, to this value, to needs analysis, show me this component. If the stage is not that on a record, don't show me this component, right? Pretty simple.
That's pretty awesome.
So, and not only can you add like one set of, you can actually add multiple things to it too. So let's say that I've got even more specific requirements, right? So I said before that the stage has to be a certain value. Let's say that the dollar amount has to also equal something. So let's say the dollar amount in this case has to equal over 100,000. So at that point, that's when we get a deal support request. And then maybe let's add one more. Maybe there's another set of criteria that we want to put in. Let's say we have this custom field called strategic. And let's say that this is an opportunity that is considered strategic by the account team. We'll call this equal, true. So that strategic is just a checkbox, and you just have either a true or false option. And then this is where I can configure things. So down below, show this component when all filters are true, when any of the filters are true, when certain filter logic is met. So go down below, and you see I've got something already pre-created here. So just very simple and or logic here. So maybe I want the stage to equal needs analysis and 2 or 3, right? So the amount has to equal, greater than, or equal to 100,000. The strategic box has to be checked. That's the criteria. I think that looks good. Oh, let's see. We have an error here. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that this feature was very approachable. So we put a lot of nice error handling to help you walk through and sort of understand how to troubleshoot things. So here it just says very clearly, just enter some parentheses in there.
That's really helpful for me. Formulas are hard.
Yes, they are hard. Yes, and we totally get that. And when I started to use the feature at first, I told the team, okay, this is awesome, but let's put a little bit more error handling. Let's put some hand-holding, some tips in there to make sure that admins are going to be super successful with this.
I like hand-holding.
Yes.
It's my favorite.
So we'll hit the save button up on top. And then once I hit save, I have the opportunity to activate it. So one of the tips that I'll give is that if you have access to a sandbox, definitely make these in sandbox, because when we go through this activation flow, you'll see in a moment here, once I hit activate, that goes live right away. So if you have an opportunity to be able to put it in a sandbox, go ahead and develop there.
That's our best practices as admins, right? Is we test everything in sandbox before production.
And so here we go. We've got org default. So I have several activation types. I have org default. I can set it by app. So a few releases ago, we created this notion of a lightning app. So you can specify this for a specific app that you've got. So if you've got an app created for marketing or for service, you want this record page to only show up for that particular app, you have that flexibility, or even app record type and profile. So you have an even more granular control over it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this the org default. I'll hit save. And I'm going to go back. So now that that's been saved and activated, I get a chance to go ahead and see exactly what it looks like in the end user's point of view. And here we go. So I've got this custom page. I'm here on the opportunity page, and you can see I've got details here. I've got that deal support request from that flow component that I added up on the page. And I've got the chatter feed down below. And let's just make sure that that deal support request is supposed to show up. So here we go. I've got the stage it's set to needs analysis. So that's one of the criteria that I set. And the dollar amount is over 100,000. So perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. That's what I configured it for.
That is awesome. This is kind of, I keep thinking this is kind of the next level of validation roles or business automation, but really for the Lightning experience. I mean, for an admin, I'm like, oh, there's so many possibilities. This is really exciting.
There's tons of possibilities. And this really gives you even more control. Some of the feedback that we've gotten is I want to be able just to show components on the page when it's relevant, right? We don't want to show everything. We don't need a kitchen sink every single page out there. Let's have more control over it. Let's just show the information that's relevant. So this is a way to be able to control that.
Yeah, and it makes it easier for your users to really see only the information they need to care about instead of scrolling or going through tabs. It's
Absolutely.
really a powerful tool.
Absolutely, yeah. We're super excited about it. Let me go to another one. I'll go to another record here, and you can see it's the same record page, but you see that I don't have that flow component that has showed up here. So even though I'm over $100,000 on the dollar amount here, you can see my stage criteria hasn't been met. So it's smart. It knows exactly when to show it, when not to show it. One of the other cool things is, let's say that I want to interact with this sales path here, and I want to set the stage to needs analysis, which is the next one. I can mark that as the current stage. And you can see as soon as that updates, you see that deal support request flow component shows up right away. So it's instant. So it's very performant. We've made sure that this is going to work lightning fast, right? Just like everything else that we've been trying to do with Lightning.
This is so cool. This is so cool. I'm really excited about this pilot. We do have a question about the pilot specifically.
Sure.
This is from Jeff Berger on Twitter, so thank you for asking your question. Will all standard components have visibility control in the pilot? Do developers add the visibility property, or is that handled by the app builder?
Oh, that's an awesome question. So, and I get it every time I demo it, so I'm going to make sure I put that up front. No, developers don't have to do anything, so there's no custom code involved in this. This is 100% controlled by the app builder. It's all app builder and page centric, so that's it.
That is awesome.
Yep.
Thanks for your question, Jeff.
And and like I mentioned, it's not only the standard components, but even custom components that are built too. So if you bring in a custom component from the App Exchange, you can set a visibility rule for that too.
That's so cool. Yep. So cool.
So I'm going to flip back here to our slides here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get signed up for this pilot feature. So so how do I get my hands on this? So to get started, just ask your account team to nominate you. And there's just a couple of things we want to know in that nomination, right? So we want to just understand exactly, like I've done the demo here. I kind of want to get a sense of how you like to use this feature. And then just provide either a sandbox or a developer org ID, and we'll go through the process of getting you set up. So it shouldn't take us that long to go ahead and do it. We'll get it in your hands as soon as possible. This is definitely a priority for me. I want to get this into as many people's hands as possible and get feedback. Maybe I'll even ask a few of you if I can interview you as the pilot program progresses.
Yeah, so be a part of the team with us and sign up for the pilot. This is a very accessible pilot, so absolutely. I can't wait to play around with it myself.
Great.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael.
Yep.
Are we ready to...
one more slide.
We do have roadmap. I'm getting all these roadmap questions, by the way, so I'm really glad you're going to this slide.
So yes. So talk a little bit about the roadmap, and there's a lot of exciting stuff on there. And like I've said, I've spent a lot of time out there with customers doing webinars on these Lightning Now tours, partner forums, and I've been getting tons of feedback on it. So I hope that as I go through this, you're going to see, oh, that's the feature that I've been wanting for some time now. So definitely listen to your feedback and as engaged as I could possibly be. So here's a sneak peek for it. So some of the things we're working on for this upcoming Dreamforce release. We're working on custom page templates. So this is a pretty cool feature. We provide 1, 2, and 3 column options for your page templates today, right? Those are the out-of-the-box ones you get. They're standard web design type templates. And what we want to do is give you the ability to go out and just create your own. So this would be like creating it programmatically, just like a Lightning component. But if you have a specific use case where you need 5 columns, or even if you need a specific color in the background, this would be a way to go off there and build it. Some of the other stuff that's coming in is that we're also, and you see the screenshot here, App Builder is an awesome WYSIWYG tool. It's all component-based right now, and some feedback that we've gotten is I have to go out to the page layout editor in order to go and modify my fields and do anything there. Like, we like the page layout editor. It's been there. There are millions of layouts that have been created there, but we like the WYSIWYG experience for the App Builder and the page and the components on there. So what about bringing that, those page layout editor and the App Builder together? So that's something that we're working very hard on. And something that we want to see in a near-term release. So we're working on that. Field and section editing. What makes that even more cool is that since I showed that App Builder dynamic feature, imagine if you can do that down at the section and the field level.
What? There was actually a Twitter question that came in just about that, so you already got it.
Yes. We loud and clear that we want to deliver on that one. There's 80,000 idea exchange points, so we definitely have been hearing your feedback. We're working on it. You're going to see it sooner than later, so we're pretty excited about it. And we've got a few other things on there. one of the other ones that I get, and I'll just point out near the bottom, is customizing mobile pages. So for those of you out there that have Salesforce 1, that you've deployed it in there, you want to get a little bit more of the Lightning component functionality in there. So one of the things on our roadmap is to be able to let you go in, edit those mobile record pages within the app builder, maybe even reuse just a mobile version of the desktop page. So that's something we're working on, and hopefully, once again, we see that sooner than later.
That'd be awesome.
Yep.
That's great. Anything else coming up?
Oh, that's it.
Oh,
so
that's it.
Actually, I can jump back if there maybe any other questions. So that's what we've got. Sorry.
So let's see. So there is a couple questions coming in.
Sure.
Let me go ahead and ask. So there is a question. A lot of our admins still are using classics. A question came in from Kimberly asking about component reliability on classic page layouts.
Mm-hmm. So you can add your you can add and I'm going to assume Lightning components, but if not, we can have a follow-up question. I'll follow up with you. But you can add your Lightning components to classic pages, so via Visualforce. You can add Lightning to Visualforce. They both play well together, and that's a way to be able to surface the Lightning components that you've built within classic. So, I mean, that functionality is available and it's fully supported.
That's great. There were a couple other questions which we will totally address.
Okay.
But lots of love for the dynamic.
Good.
I mean, people are so excited about about App Builder in general and then the dynamic abilities to do components.
Good to hear.
Very cool.
Yep.
So thank you so much. So let's transition, because we all like to, we are really smart already by using the ability to customize our apps and our pages and all of the things using App Builder. But let's make them super smart. Tell us about Einstein, James.
Einstein. That was great. I learned so much from watching your demo. I was glued to your screen. So
Great.
Thanks, Michael.
Very good. Good to hear.
But yeah, let's talk about Einstein. So really excited to be talking about this. And of course, we're going to spend most of the time in the software, which is where all the fun happens. But to start out, we're talking about Einstein. And what is Einstein, right? You've probably seen this slide plenty of times at Dreamforce. It's the world's smartest CRM. It's this layer of intelligence we're adding to the Salesforce platform right in there. But what we don't talk about as often is what does that actually mean? What's powering this? So I wanted to just take a second to go behind the scenes with the AI and what's going on inside this machine learning platform. So in here, on this slide, we have the classical approach to artificial intelligence. So think you're trying to use your data, you have your own data scientist team, and you want to predict something. So you have quite a few steps here. You go through data sampling, feature selection, model selection, all these different steps, and then at the end, you'd integrate it into an application, maybe it's Salesforce, whatever your users are using. Now what Einstein does is it does automated machine learning, which is this bottom row here. So essentially we're taking care of all those steps for you. What's important about this is lots of different places in the application, the software that we're going to look at, we're doing this automatically for you. So we're running through all these potential models, finding the best fit for your organization. And in some cases, like in the insights we might take a look at, that's actually doing that for every single insight, finding the right model for your organization. So it's AI specific to you without having to have a data scientist or anything like that. And what's cool about this is you can take advantage of AI just by flipping a switch in setup, which I think we'll get into in just a sec. And with that, Einstein's actually live across all our clouds, which is incredible, right? So Sales Cloud has Einstein, Service Cloud has Einstein through marketing, commerce, App Cloud Einstein, analytics, community. There's some great functionality out with the summer release. But today what I want to talk about for our admins and what I'm really particularly interested in is Sales Cloud Einstein. So why don't we, without further ado, why don't we dive in here and look at Sales Cloud Einstein?
Show us some Sales Cloud Einstein.
Yeah,
Admins want to know what
demo.
Einstein means for them, so show
They
us
do.
the way.
Yeah, and as a former admin, I want to know too, and I've been having a ton of fun playing around in Einstein. So I actually flew back from Boston last night, and while I was on the plane, I was thinking, I showed this Einstein demo a lot, but how can we make this really actionable for our admins? So I wanted to give you some concrete steps of things you can do. So that's what I've got here. And the first step I'd recommend before we get really deep into the product is taking the Sales Cloud Einstein trail on Trailhead. So this can go into our 4 main pieces of functionality we'll look at in the software, which is Einstein lead scoring, Einstein insights for opportunities and accounts, and Einstein activity capture. But also now with Summer, we have Einstein automated contacts, which is really great functionality as well. So really excited about that. The other really important thing with the summer release is that everybody in Sales Cloud now has an org readiness check right in the setup for Sales Cloud. What's so important about this is if you're taking the trail, or if you looked at some of our data sheets around Einstein, is there are requirements to use the product, right? So there's things like data limits. You have to have a certain amount of data in your org, be able to get a good prediction and to make it worthwhile to use artificial intelligence. There's things like what email provider you're using for Einstein activity capture. So instead of going through all of those here on the webinar, I can actually take you in to Sales Cloud. And you can see in here now, you'll have this readiness check that you can run for yourself. So what you'll do is you run this right here, and you'll get a report, a PDF just like this, that goes through feature by feature and tells you whether or not your org is a good fit for Einstein. So in here, it starts with license type and edition. So we know we have to be on Enterprise Edition for Sales Cloud Einstein, and then we also have to have the Sales Cloud Einstein license. So that's a barrier to entry right there. You just got to meet that first step. But then also feature by feature, we have them right here. So for Einstein Activity Capture, we have congratulations. If your company is using Gmail or Office 365, you can use that feature right away. So right now, that is a requirement for Einstein Activity Capture, so you can authenticate your email and get that on the back end. For Einstein Account Insights, these are really, really powerful tools that go out and mine through news sites, bring in data relevant to your accounts. But you see the restriction here that your company needs to be working US-based companies that are covered in the news. So if you're a small business, or maybe your accounts are individual people, that's probably not going to be a good fit for the account insights. These are really more the larger companies that are going to be doing things like M&A activity or big growth expansion that will come up in the news. And then we also have Einstein lead scoring. So there's a few requirements in here, and this has actually checked the data in my org to see if I'm a good fit for this. And those are really around the amount of leads you're converting, and then also the lead workflow you're working. So you need to be converting leads to opportunities in order to have lead scoring work for your org. And then finally, we have Einstein Opportunity Insights. Activity capture is a requirement for this. So this does work through natural language processing on your email, which means you have to have your email connected with Einstein Activity Capture, but also there's some requirements around how long your average opportunity is open. If you're turning through opportunities really quickly, maybe just a couple days, that's not really giving us enough time to look for insights that are going to impact the sales cycle. So that's a requirement there as well. So it looks like my org's actually a good fit. So I can go through here. And assuming I have the license, I'm going to go into setup. So this is what setup for Sales Cloud Einstein looks like. I just want to stress, we don't have any developers or data scientists to enable this in Sales Cloud. We're taking care of all of that for you. So the first step we take is setting up a permission set to give users access to Einstein.
We love permission sets.
We love permission sets. Really common question I get is, do you have to buy the Sales Cloud Einstein add-on for all your Sales Cloud users, or can it be a subset? And it can be a subset. So if this is something you want to try at your company for one team and see what the results are like, you can certainly do that and then use permission sets to assign who gets what pieces of functionality. Moving down from there, so we'd set up the permission set. Then we're going to go through, we're going to connect our email, Einstein lead scoring, opportunity insights, account insights, and automated contacts. We're going to go through and set up all of those. I won't go into detail on all of that, instead I'm going to fast forward here. And you'll see something like this. Now within each one of these, we'll see settings. We can go in and configure them in more detail, but all of these are just toggles, like setting up anything else in Sales Cloud. There's no code, there's nothing like that you have to do to set up Sales Cloud Einstein. So really easy steps there to do that. I'm going to come back to my checklist. So the first couple things you can do, again, take that trail. Everyone should be taking that org readiness check, see if you're a good fit for Sales Cloud Einstein. So you're educated, see if you're a good fit. And then we can get into the actual setup.
So can I ask a question from Twitter right now?
Yeah, from Twitter.
We have a question from Kothai. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm sorry. Do you need an Einstein license to run the readiness report?
It's an excellent question, and no, you don't. So everyone can run that. Part of the point is, should you even be looking into purchasing Sales Cloud Einstein? Because depending on your data amounts and your sales workflow, it might not be a good fit for you. So you can take that check and then decide if you want to go down that road.
So everyone can run the report.
Everybody could and should run that report.
Yeah. Okay.
Assuming you go through that process, you run the report, you're a good fit, and you get the license. Here's a few steps you can do. So first we're going to connect the email, and I wanted to touch on this because it's an interesting process here. So if we go back to my org, so this org right here, I did create the permission step, but I haven't done anything else in here. I just wanted to touch on enabling Einstein Activity Capture. So if we set this up in here, we have a few settings admins can control. We can exclude email addresses. We can set the default activity sharing for new users. Now this is really important, is the sharing permissions for all this automatically captured activity. And I think as admins, when you go and talk to your sales leaders and your sales reps, they're going to wonder about this, right? Who can see this data? Is this everyone that's going to see my opportunity data, all my email activity? And so you can set the default activity sharing, whether it's unique, only to that one user, or if it's to everyone in the org, or if it's maybe more like a deal team, a group that you've set up in Sales Cloud. So we can review those types of settings. But what I want to do is I just want to turn this on. So just like that, it's enabled. So that's all I really do as the admin. But then what happens for the users, right? It's really easy.
Yeah, that's nice.
I can do that.
Super easy. You can do that, yeah. So super easy to set up, but now what does that look like for all your users? So your users who you give this permission to actually have to go in one by one and authenticate their email. So if I did this correctly, when I refresh, so let's say I'm logging in, I see my nice seagulls there. Now we have this banner at the top of the screen saying your salesforce-Admin enabled Sales Cloud Einstein, start using Einstein. So that was me, I just turned that on. And what your sales reps would do is they would click start using Einstein, and they'd get walked through this really easy tutorial to connect their email. Now this is a one-time thing, and essentially what they're doing is they're understanding what's going on with sharing their emails and automatically collecting those in Salesforce. And then they're just authenticating. So whether you're using Office 365 or Gmail, you'd select one of these, log in with your email account, and you're done. That's all they have to do. Now sharing settings, they can control that on the opportunity. Again, I have the default permissions, but in terms of enabling automatic activity capture, that's all we have to do. Really powerful stuff. So that's my next step, is connecting your email, showing how you do that, turning it on as an admin, really easy. The next thing we can take advantage of as an admin is setting up Einstein layouts and views. So I was watching you do the app builder, and I'm just thinking we can do all of that for Einstein, right?
That's right.
So I'm going to hop in here. So I've got Einstein enabled. I've got my lead record page open here, but I don't have that Einstein component I've seen in many demos at Dreamforce and beyond. So if I go in here and edit the page, just like Michael was doing, we now have a standard component right here for my lead insights from Einstein.
So you got that standard component because you now enabled Einstein.
Because I enabled Einstein. That's exactly right. So this is the Einstein lead scoring component. And we can place it wherever we want. I like it right here, but it's a lightning component. We can do whatever we want with it. We put it on there and we'll save. And of course, we're going to need to activate that, just like Michael was talking about. And it's org default. It's great. Let's go back here. And there we go. So this is a terrible lead score. We have a 0 on this lead. But it's working, right? So really, really powerful stuff as an admin, being able to control where that is on the page. But most likely, this is more the detailed view. You're already on the lead as a sales rep. Maybe you're already calling them. You've had contact with them. What I see when I visit customers, usually what they're doing when they're working through this is they're using a lead list, right? And Einstein lead scoring is really about how you prioritize through this massive list of leads, who you should be calling, who you should be following up with. So of course, we're going to let you put Einstein lead scores on a lead list. And it just works like any other field. So we select the fields we want to display. Come in here, we have our score field. I'm going to put that right up near the top, make it a priority here, and we'll save it. What's really cool, so we see we have it here. We can sort like any other field in here. What's cool is this is actually a special type of field. This isn't like any other field we see in the lead list because it's actually a smart one. And if we hover over it, when we get my mouse working here, we actually have those same insights. So I don't know if you've ever seen a field like that work like this in the lead list, but it's really, really cool. So really quickly, we're going to sort on this. We're going to go through all our leads, maybe only work the ones that are above 80, something like that. And then not only that, we have our predictive factors. Now, when we've been implementing this with different customers, we find, adoption is a huge thing for reps. How are they going to trust the system? Pretty often I hear the term, AI can be a black box. And this is what we're doing to address that, right? So every rep can come in here, they see the score that we're giving them, and then they also see the why. So in this case, we found that, because the number of employees is a certain amount, we're getting a good signal, a good positive indicator this is a good lead. Because of the country, because of the lead source, we're getting positive indicators. And all of these are specific to your own org. So the machine learning from Einstein, going back to that model we were talking about, it's going through and it's finding the top indicators for your leads. It's going to retest, so if anything changes, we'll always have the most accurate indicators in here for your org. So really powerful stuff on the lead score right there. And we can extend it further. So we can actually do this in the Kanban view as well.
Kanban view is my favorite.
Is it your favorite view?
It is my favorite.
Looks like I already put it in here. So same thing, we have the Kanban view, we have our lead score right in here, and it's still that special type of field where we highlight over it and we get these top predictive factors. So really cool stuff you can set up in there as an admin, your page layouts, your list views, making sure your reps can work through them like that. But the final thing I want to talk about, so beyond layouts and views, is how can you extend Einstein? So as of our summer release, Einstein is now actually that field is something you can access with tools like Process Builder and App Builder and beyond. So if you think as an admin, the possibilities are really endless, what you can do there in terms of customization. So I'm going to show that really quickly, just making a quick process flow with something like intelligent lead routing, extending Einstein like that. So let's go to Setup, and we'll go into Process Builder. And I'm just going to create a new process, and we'll call this Intelligent Lead Routing. And we'll say, when a record changes, we're going to invoke this process. And our object, of course, will be the lead in this case. And we'll say, whenever a record is created or edited, we're going to invoke this process on the lead object. And then we have our first criteria. So let's say when a lead score is above 80, we want to do something special with that. So in here, this is really the magic here, is that field, the intelligence score, is available to you in Process Builder. So in here, we'll select that score, choose that field. So now we've got our Einstein lead score in here. And we'll just say when it's greater than 80. And now we've got our first condition in there, right? So lead score is above 80. And we've all seen Process Builder, but we can invoke whatever actions we want. I'm just going to do a quick post to Chatter just for fun. We'll call this my Chatter post. And let's just say it's going to go on this record, and we'll say something like, this is a super hot lead, call on me. And we'll save that. So we can extend that. The point is really that field's available for you now.
That's right.
Really powerful that we can get it in Process Builder. And then of course the flip side down here, lower quality leads. We could do something like put a filter in here and run them onto a campaign. So same thing, we're just going to get that field, get the score. And for leads, let's say less than 50. We'll create another process there for them. So really quickly, a quick example of what we can do for Process Builder. That's just one example of how we can extend Einstein, getting that field that's created through machine learning in Einstein, and then extending it across Salesforce just like you would anything else.
Kind of like automating your automation in some ways, right?
Right.
Because Einstein is automatically working for you in the background. And I think one thing that you touched on, but I really want to stress, Einstein looks at your custom fields, right, that you've built.
That's exactly right, yeah. So one of the really powerful parts about the platform, right, so for the Einstein layer of technology, is that it's looking at your lead object, right? That's how it's making the prediction about the score. But it's not just standard fields, right? It could be any of your custom fields, which is what makes these predictions specific to your industry, your account, your org, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, especially as an admin, right? It's like, oh, Einstein AI can be a little intimidating, but I mean, you just showed how easy it is to kind of implement it and then make it work for you and really make your business run so much smoother. I mean, can you imagine being able to do that for leads and all those poor sales reps who are tasked with that huge leads list? This makes their job a little more easy, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's really exciting stuff, yeah. And, there's tons of great stuff coming out, too. So really excited about what we can do to extend Einstein on the platform.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
We are going to have a ton of questions coming in. There's actually one already coming in that I think is a good one to start on. So I'm going to totally butcher your name. Anarunda Singh is asking, is Einstein only available in Lightning?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for the most part, yes. So there's some pieces of functionality, Einstein's across all our products. So there's some pieces of functionality that work outside of Lightning. But some of, a good example of that is that really cool field where we're dropping up the insights, opportunity insights. Those types of functionality, they're built on Lightning for Lightning, and you just can't get that experience in Salesforce Classic. So for the most part, yes, with a few exceptions.
That's good. I mean, everyone should be moving to Lightning eventually anyway,
Exactly.
right?
That's right.
So, and then another question, just to reiterate what I kind of already asked you, is does Einstein work with custom objects and apps?
It's a great question. So you can extend Einstein to apps, right? Like that field's available if you want to put it in there. But the custom objects is the big question, right? So if you're using, our analytics tool like Einstein Discovery, certainly you can bring whatever data source you want in there. But I think the real question is, let's extend beyond lead. Let's do scoring on one of our customers, custom workflows, custom apps, something like that. And I think that's where we're going. So that's roadmap. And really we're at this great starting point, and you'll see that coming.
Well, it's kind of like how we built Path and Kanban for sales, and now it's available on custom objects, right?
That's
so
right.
Exactly.
This is what we try to do as Salesforce.
Yes.
Test it with sales first, and then make sure it's good and compare it to everybody else.
Everyone else.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. So the next thing that we'd like to talk about are some of the kind of everyday amazing things that admins can do now with Summer 17, and then they can show their end users. And we have the one and only Leanne Templeman here to share the amazing stuff coming with us.
Well, thank you, Jillian. And thanks for that great demo. I love seeing lead scoring, especially in automation, because I remember having to create these formula fields and these kind of complex workflow rules as an admin when I didn't necessarily know what made the best leads, right? I was sort of guessing and sort of taking feedback. And the idea that I can now bring in, right, that lead score into my automation and not have to have these giant formula fields where I was kind of guesstimating what makes a good lead, I can incorporate that. It's super exciting.
Yeah.
You may pass me the clicker?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Awesome.
There you
So thank you. That was a great demo. So let's get started. So admin highlights. So every release we love talking about what are the highlights for admins, those of us that are building and customizing, and what are the features that we're going to really get into, like in setup and those things that admins really should make sure that they see in the upcoming release live videos and in the release notes. And also we like to cover what is coming up for end users, because I know as an admin, I often would go right to the parts of the release notes that were related to my builds, right? Like were related to apps I was using or field types I was working with. And it's really helpful for us as admins to be able to also know what's coming for our end user experience so that we can prepare our end users and be that expert and ambassador. But first, let's talk about building and customizing, because it is my favorite.
You do app all the things. So
I do like to app all the things. And there is a ton of fun stuff coming in summer for admins and how we can work in setup and how we can work in our apps in Lightning and build and move around different apps and customize our experience for our users. One of the first things I want to highlight, and I'm going to demo all these features, or most of those features as well, is the Migration Assistant. So hopefully everyone has seen the Migration Assistant in the past, the Lightning Migration Assistant in setup, but we've really changed the look and feel to make it has even more coaching now and kind of steps that you go through. And so even if you've visited the Lightning Migration Assistant in the past, this is a great time after this release to, if you're in Classic Setup, go back to Lightning Migration Assistant, check it out. And if you are working on moving users to Lightning, you now have a new feature for permission sets in Summer where you can enforce the user experience for your end users and say, okay, we've rolled out Lightning and now I'm going to give you this permission set that says now you stay in Lightning.
You must live in Lightning Land.
That's
now
right.
It's a lovely place.
We get to positively encourage our users to be in Lightning forever. And this is very impactful. Like, as an admin, often we're troubleshooting and we're getting questions and requests from our users and we're responsible for their experience, right? And if you don't know what experience they're in, that becomes a little bit more difficult. And so if you can, it's just another layer of ensuring that they're in the right place, they're seeing the right things. You know, Mike, you showed us how we can control what the page looks like based on profile and app. And controlling the experience is important as well, so we can make sure we're giving them the best experience possible. Object Manager. I'm going to wait to show you Object Manager, but there's some super fun stuff coming in Object Manager.
It's so exciting.
I love it. It makes my life so much easier. Lightning Setup makes my life a lot easier. I do app all the things, and it makes everything a lot more simple to navigate around setup. So again, if you visited Object Manager in the past, this summer release is a great time to revisit it. And pick lists, we've got, and this will be covered in more depth. So I'm not going to demo this in its entirety, but it'll be covered in more depth next week. But in a recent release, we rolled out global values for pick lists, which was super useful, being able to designate a set of values. So say you've got like project type, and that's a field that you're going to use on your project object and all these related objects as well. And historically, you would have had to then recreate that pick list in all of those places and cross your fingers that you didn't spell it differently in one field or in one object. Well, with global values, we were able to create this global value set and then use it for pick lists on any object. Well, now we have a new tool in Summer to help migrate some of those legacy pick lists or those kind of existing pick lists that have their own value set, migrate those to global pick lists, which is a really cool feature. It just makes it a lot easier to kind of bring those pick lists to the future of pick lists.
Right.
And flow component, which Michael,
Yes.
you talked about.
Love the flow component.
I love flow
Yeah.
component, and it's GA. So
It
I
is.
just want to highlight that it's something we've been talking about for a while, but there's never been a better time to learn visual workflow because you can roll it out with App Builder.
That's right.
In the flow component, and it is now GA. So that is something that we're super excited. And
Just
I
gotta get
realized
that beta label off of it, right?
I know, and I realized actually I didn't put it on the slide, but I'm going to demo it. Lightning Console is also
Yes.
GA in Summer, which is super exciting.
So cool.
And it's GA plus a bunch of new features.
GA+.
GA plus. And we're also going to talk about how we can wow our end users, right? So how do we bring these features to our end users? So we've got a ton of end user features in Sales Cloud, end user features throughout Lightning. We've got updates to streams. We've got updates to search. Search is getting smarter and smarter, which I find very useful. Console split view, hovering on case, so kind of that idea of being able to see more details when you're hovering over related records. We've got spell check for search, chatter topics, one of my favorite Lightning or Salesforce Classic features, chatter topics, is now in Lightning, and it's even better than it is in Classic. Keyboard shortcuts and dashboard filters. So if you're using dynamic dashboards or creating dynamic dashboards using filters in Classic, that's another feature that in Summer is going to be available in Lightning. So
Awesome. So we want to see it.
I know, enough
All
slides.
these exciting things. Why don't you show them to us?
Enough slides. Let's get to the demo. Okay, so I know that this is Classic, and you said we were going to be in Lightning all day, but the reason that we're starting in Classic is because I want to show you the new Migration Assistant. So this is our brand new Lightning Migration Assistant. If we're in Classic Setup, we can just access it here on the top left of our Setup area. And when we get started, it's going to really coach us through all the steps, everything that we need to get ready for Lightning. And so step one is to learn Lightning, right? So we're going to learn more. We're going to take our Trailhead trail. We're going to compare feature parity. We're going to watch our overview video of Lightning. We're also going to do our readiness check. So if you have not yet done your readiness check for Lightning, there is no reason not to run a readiness check. Absolutely none. It does not modify anything in your environment. Your boss doesn't get an email saying that you ran it. I mean, you can run the readiness check. It drops in your email. You can have unlimited numbers pretty much of readiness checks and just keep running it, which you should do with every release and to see kind of where you are at with Lightning. So I'm running my readiness check from here. I can preview so I can see how does my environment look in Lightning.
Yeah, just a question about the readiness check. Can you run that in Sandbox?
I don't know.
You can.
You can.
Yeah, that was it.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
a trick question.
That's
I
a
don't know.
rhetorical
It is.
question there.
So one of the bits of feedback that we've gotten from customers is like, they have sandboxes out there? Can they run it in there just to make sure they got that extra layer of protection, right? So yes, something they can do.
Great. Well,
Yep.
thank you for that. I actually did not know that.
Yep.
We learn something new every day.
Yes.
You can preview, and actually speaking of Sandbox, so you can always preview from the Migration Assistant in Classic Setup. If you are an admin, if you have the system admin permissions set, you can, and if you have access to sandboxes, you can always, turn on Lightning, like just for yourself in a sandbox using a permission set. Or you could even, turn it, if you create a Lightning Experience user permission set,
Yeah.
and if you are using custom profiles, there's really no reason you couldn't just turn it on in production just for yourself if you're using custom profiles. So you're just giving it to yourself. So just, I think there's a lot of ways that you can get the look and feel of what especially for custom objects and your pages, what they look like in Lightning. We also have all of our Lightning features, related features. So these are these great features that are only available in Lightning, like notes and news. And we can set up users as well. So we set up our users, we create a Lightning experience permission set or a custom profile, and we really recommend doing it with permission sets. It's a great way to apply one permission set to all of your future Lightning users. And once you have created that permission set and assigned it to a number of users, then you can also define who should get Lightning immediately the next time they log in. So this is a whole new experience for this migration assistant. And again, if you're in Classic still, it's a great time to go check this out and learn more about your environment in Lightning. And then when you're ready, you can also enable Lightning from here. So enough Classic, let's get to Lightning. So we've enabled Lightning, we've set up our users and our permission sets. And just to give you a quick lay of the land, I'm in my Lightning homepage, and I have customized this homepage a little bit, which I'll get to in a moment. But this is my Lightning homepage. So how I'm navigating around, I have my tabs at the top, so I can navigate between all the tabs I have access to or in this app. And I can also get to maybe recent records for specific tabs or objects, as well as recent lists that I've viewed and favorite items I have with my navigation drop down here. And your users are going to navigate between the apps and tabs that you are creating for them and building for them with this app launcher. So the app launcher is the colored waffle at the top left, and this is just the
Everybody
official.
loves colored waffles.
The rainbow waffle. It's the official name. It is not the official name. I take that back.
The Leanne official name.
But one thing that I do like about the app launcher is you can search within it. So if you're a sysadmin, for example, and you have access to every single tab and every app, right? You can search within it to quickly find either the tabs or apps that you need. So that's our Lightning homepage, and I have made some customizations here. So I'm using a standard component on the homepage. There's a standard rich text component that you can define what you put in. And this is actually a suggestion from our community for how to roll out features to users. So Jillian, we spent a lot of time talking about you can build the coolest things in the world, but we need to make sure that our users know how to access them. We need to be the ambassadors for our users at our organizations. And so a great idea around releases is to say, add kind of an announcement to your homepage and to highlight what are some of these release items, maybe the things that you've handpicked that you think are going to be meaningful. But let's customize this page even more. So we've already given them a custom component of rich text to let them know what the release items are, but we want to make it easier for them to navigate around all these apps that we're building, and we also want to increase collaboration using some Einstein.
Very good.
So we've got our homepage here, and because I'm not a sales user, I am going to get rid of my beautiful quarterly performance chart, but what I'm going to add is a brand new standard component that I have for App Launcher. So now you can add the App Launcher right to the homepage.
That is awesome.
Right?
This is so easy to navigate. Reduces a click, right?
It reduces a click, and it's a great training tool too if you're kind of getting your users used to where the apps live. And this is a great reason also to when you're building Lightning apps to put a good description, pick a good logo, make sure that your users have access to the right apps and they don't need to have access to maybe every single app, right? So that they have that, okay, I know what app I'm supposed to use, I know where I'm supposed to go and how I'm supposed to use these different apps. So we've added our apps here. Now we love Chatter, of course, at our organization, and we also have another new homepage component called Recommendations. So Recommendations is powered by Einstein, and it helps our users know who should they be following, what are the users and groups that are going to be beneficial to them, that they share something in common with. And we can customize the recommendations a little bit here on the right. So you can define, what should we call it? So we could say who to follow. We'll make it extremely, straightforward here. How many recommendations we want to show. So if we're being conscious of our real estate, right, we might not want to have 25 recommendations. And if we want to look at users or groups or both. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And I've already activated this page, so I'm just going to go ahead and click Save and back. And now we have this new experience. I can see all of my various apps I have access to. And if your user wants to work with other components, they can always collapse those just like in the App Launcher. And I can also see I've got a recommendation. It looks like I'm supposed to follow Jillian Mabruce.
No idea who that is. No idea.
We share interest in a record, so I'm going to go ahead and follow her because I'm sure she's sharing really important stuff. So I've got to go ahead and follow. So that's how we are using some new standard components to customize the homepage. But let's take a look at our setup experience. So when I go to setup, and this is actually not new with this release, but I always like to point it out, setup now opens in a new tab in your browser, which is very useful. Like usually especially when I'm adding fields to an object, for example, I like to keep a record open in one page, and then I'm like working with my pages or my fields. So I am in setup now, and we've got our kind of new setup experience. It's all of our friends are here.
We like our friends.
We like our friends. All of our friends are here. And so in setup, if you go to Object Manager, and I already have this tab open, but if you haven't used this before, then you are going to want to search for Object Manager and click into Object Manager. And this is a really new experience in Lightning Setup for admins to work with all of their custom and standard objects. So this is your kind of one place to work with all those objects. I can see my accounts are here, my account is here, activities, all those standard objects, but I also have some custom apps that I've installed from the App Exchange. So I have those custom objects as well. Something that I use a lot in this page myself is sorting by last modified, because I generally am working with my like top 5 or 10 objects the most. So I use that last modified sort, and it saves me a lot of time. And when we click into one of and we can also find in page, so if you have a ton of objects, you can always find in page as well. So no more Control F.
I mean, Object Manager is a game changer for admins because we spend so much time building new objects, editing existing objects. Like this is we had it with the previous release, but this is like a such improved version of that.
Right.
It makes working and customizing so much easier. I'm so excited about this one.
Well, and I feel like, Michael was talking about being able to really optimize the page experience for your users. Like we want that too, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting that too. We're getting this optimized page experience where we're not scrolling forever. We're not having to like Control F to find the right related list in a page, in a record detail page in setup, or an object detail page, in setup. So I think that this really gives admins that kind of high efficiency, productive work environment, just like we've been working on for our end users.
So we build it for our end users. We get a little bit of the love too. It's good.
Yeah, we get some summer treats too. So we're in our project page right now. So this looks very different. So this is very different from what the project detail page the object detail page that you've worked with in the past, because it is organized by these sections. So again, that means no scrolling. You can quickly navigate between different sections to find different fields that you're working with, different layouts that you're working with, if you've got various record types. Something that I like quite a bit. I'm no longer managing any production org, so I don't tend to run into limits. However, I remember running into limits, and it's really nice to be able to see in one place for a specific object where you're at, like with your custom field usage or things like that. And if I'm going to be working in setup, a feature that I use quite a bit is search within setup. And this is not a new feature, but I like to highlight it in case you don't know about it as an admin yet. But what's cool is that if I'm searching, say, for a specific field, like I'm searching for my field called project type. So I decided to search in setup using that global search bar at the top. And when I get to my results of project type for the object project, which is the field I was looking for, and I click on it, I'm just taken right back to that object detail page. So it brings you back to that experience within that. And this is one of those legacy pick lists. So just to give you a little preview of what it looks like, when I click edit for my pick list, I just have the option now to promote to global value set. So if you're looking at a pick list field in setup and you don't see promote to global value set, click edit first.
Well, and that's really cool because that enables that pick list value set to be used across objects, any object, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of global pick lists, and now you can do that on an existing pick list versus creating a new one.
Exactly.
Which is really cool.
Exactly. So that is a super useful tool for admins, I think, to be able to upgrade their pick list, bring kind of everything to Lightning, and as you're looking at these different features, it can be really useful to understand, well, where are my limits at for the entire org, or if I'm doing kind of a cleanup. Usually when we're doing a change management project, we try to do org cleanups, right, and make sure that our reports are cleaned up and that all of our custom code's up to date. And you can do that with the optimizer. So I'm back in setup, and if I search for optimizer, I can run my optimizer report. Now, optimizer is not a brand new feature in Summer. However, it has new features within it in Summer that it's looking at. So if I go to optimizer and I can say I want to launch, got it, it's evaluating for my features. So I'm going to go to my Files tab just to look at, when you run one of these reports, it will get emailed to you as an admin, but then it'll also automatically go to your Files tab. So just so I don't have to wait for email, I'm going to go ahead and go to look at a previous report that I've run. So this optimizer report is looking at everything in your Salesforce, or many things in your Salesforce environment, and it's telling you where are you against limits and usage. And so it's not just about limits, it's also about, do I have reports and dashboards that haven't been used? I mean,
What? Wait. We can find that as an admin just by running the optimizer report?
yes. So talk about like making, I mean, I remember sending out like a survey and be like, check the box next to this thing if you use it. Like literally, I sent out like a Google form at one point. Like check the box if you're using these different types of, it was like certain dashboards and things. And you can be really smart about how your users are using your Salesforce app, or your apps and dashboards and different objects and fields. And that's super helpful when you're looking to clean up fields or clean up dashboards or make room. If you are over your storage on this, like I am, then you have to do some cleanup work. So this gives me an overview of where I'm at with all of my various usage metrics. And then also if I scroll down, I can get a lot more details as well, right? So it looks like I'm not going over my data storage, but I have links to learn more. I can see where I'm at for my field storage. So this is a super useful tool for admins. Again, kind of like Lightning Readiness Report, there's no real reason not to run it. It's great to have more knowledge about your environment. So let's take a look at our end user experience. So we're back in our homepage. And one of the things that I sort of glossed over was those actual release highlights that I put in my release highlight update for my end users. And one of those that I know, Jillian, you're really excited about is keyboard shortcuts.
We actually got a question on Twitter about that. So please tell us about keyboard shortcuts.
Do you want to ask me the question? Or
when are they going to be available in Lightning?
Well, they will be available, check trust.salesforce.com for when your environment is going to be on summer 17, and then you will have keyboard shortcuts in Lightning.
There you go.
And when you are on the summer 17 release, there's different keyboard shortcuts depending on where you are, if you're on like your homepage or if you're in a console app. And so I think it's a great best practice to let your users know, instead of like sending out an email to all of them listing the keyword shortcuts, why not just give them the shortcut to actually get the
shortcut to the shortcuts.
Yeah, the shortcut to the shortcut. So it's just Command or Control / and this will look different if I'm in console, and I'll show you in a minute, but it's kind of my cheat sheet for what my shortcuts are. This is a great thing to kind of train your users on. And we also have end user changes in Chatter. So I love Chatter topics. As soon as we started using Chatter topics in Classic at Salesforce, it's something that we use a lot. I like to follow topics. And so I have been eagerly waiting for Chatter topics to be available in Lightning, and now they are. So now when you are in Lightning in summer, those Chatter topics that you know and love from Classic are available. So I can go ahead and add my topic here, Project Central, and I'm just adding it to an existing Chatter post. However, these are even better than Classic, because when I click into that topic, I can follow it just like Classic, but when I follow it, I have even more options for what to do when I follow it. So it's not just about following the topic anymore and having this like fire hose of all of the different records and topics and people and groups that you are a part of on Salesforce. Chatter Streams, which came out in spring, allow you to really kind of fine tune and curate what you're following in which way, and navigate to like a specific list. So I have streams like my team. I have streams for maybe projects I'm following. I use this a lot in my job day to day. And now with Chatter topics, not only are they in Salesforce Lightning, but they're also available for streams, and you can work with streams right from, so we'll call this hot projects and my team. Perfect. And I can put it in what I follow. I really like this topic, so I'm going to put it everywhere. So that's some of the Chatter features, but let's take a look at the new console experience. So I'm back on my homepage, and I'm going to use my app launcher on the homepage to go right to my console app. And in my console app, I immediately am in my list view. So I'm looking at, we're using console apps to really maximize our real estate. And so our console app is for our users that are like doing high volume of record management and working with a lot of records. And we have a few new features for list views in summer 17. And one of them is new features for Kanban. So if you're using Kanban to have cards on your page where you can really work with your records, historically it was grouped by type and also summarized by currency. But it's not just all about the money.
I mean, it is, but it isn't.
It's not all about
not
the money.
in Kanban.
Because now in summer, you have a lot more options for how you're working with those Kanban pages, or Kanban views. So we can use any number field, and we can use also currency fields as we could before for summarizing. And now we can also group by owner. So previously we could only group by pick lists, or single value, like regular pick lists, not multi-select pick lists. And now we can also group by owner. So these are really cool tools to have in list views. And you may have noticed there's also a brand new type of list view to look at called split view. So this is a new way for your users to work with records in consoles and to really, again, maximize their real estate. So it brought over that list view to this left slide out here. And if I click into records, notice the top of my navigation bar here. As I'm clicking to these records, it's opening multiple tabs to work with multiple records at once. And if I move to a different list view, it doesn't change the tabs I have open in the records I'm viewing, so it's going to respect what it is I'm viewing. So when I've gotten to the record that I want to look at, I can also just slide it back.
So cool.
And put it away.
So
I have
cool.
one last thing to show you, and then we're done with the demo. We can get to questions. So the last thing I want to show, and this is just something that we've gotten a lot of requests for, and it makes it a lot easier to roll out Lightning to your end users, is using email templates. So if I'm using my actions here to create a new email, and let's say I want to send an email. I'm going to send it to Lauren. And I know that she works at, let's say, Burlington. Perfect. So I know who I'm sending it to. I've got this docked email experience at the bottom. Now I'd like to send it with a template, but I am a brand new Lightning user and I have no Lightning templates. I have not created Lightning templates yet. I don't have any templates. I'm very sad about this. Now in summer, your users can use all their classic templates.
Nice.
That is
Lightning.
awesome.
So they can drop in those templates. We know that many of our users have, they love their email templates, and that might be something that would make them maybe resistant to using Lightning in email. Now they can use them, and they don't have to recreate them. So we can go ahead and send our email. And it's even more tools for our users to be really successful and efficient. So I'm just going to go back to the slides. I've got one slide. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. So if there's 3 things that you should do today, everyone should do today after watching this. Well, they should definitely watch Release Readiness next week also. But today in their orgs, run the optimizer report, generate your brand new Lightning check, and run the Einstein Readiness report.
Of course.
And 2 of those things you can even just do from Salesforce One. So even if you're on the train, you're mobile, you're using your Salesforce One app on the way home from work, you can run your readiness check and your optimizer report right from the Salesforce A app, which is really awesome.
Really cool. Yeah. Leanne, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, there's a ton of questions on Twitter. We are totally running out of time. But lots of love for keyboard shortcuts, lots of love for split view too. I mean, split view is amazing.
Cool.
What a
Split view is
productivity
great.
saver. We are running out of time, so I want to really, really thank everyone for all of the experts joining us today. Thank everyone for joining us online. Leanne, James, Mike, seriously, this was amazing. So much product expertise. There are tons more questions, so if you did not get your question answered, don't worry. We're going to be looking at it for the rest of the day and pretty much through this entire release readiness cycle. So continue to ask your questions. We'll get to them. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, a reminder, the session is recorded, so you will be able to find it the normal ways you find things, but it'll also be posted on admin.salesforce.com, where you can also find some other amazing release resources. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing and seeing what you do with the Summer 17 release. Aloha, mahalo.